everybody. Welcome, parents. Welcome to our community engagement meeting. I'm John Franks. I know a lot of you, principal of Springboro Junior High School. Tonight's meeting is part of a series of meetings that we are having for part of the strategic planning process. So I welcome you to tonight's meeting, and I thank you for coming tonight. I'm going to be turning it over to our gentleman who will be running it here momentarily. A strategic plan is a vision of the district's future, of what we want the district to look like in the future. And that's part of the process that we're starting to plan for tonight. As the parents who are here tonight, we are very interested in hearing your input on that. We have a lot of other stakeholders we're meeting to put together that information into this comprehensive strategic plan. We're meeting with business leaders, community leaders, parents, teachers, staff, and even students as part of this process. The person that's going to be running the strategic planning process tonight is Dr. Robert Summers. Dr. Summers is a former teacher, former administrator, former educational policy advocate for Governor John Kasich. So again, this is just a crucial thing for our district as we move to the future and look at what our school wants to look like in the future. So again, I thank you for being here tonight. So at this time, Dr. Summers, and I think it'd probably be best if we maybe could, I told Dr. Summers, doesn't matter what age group, everyone kind of sits in the back automatically. So if you guys want to move like maybe four sections up.
It'll make it a little more fun.
Facilitate that conversation. So thank you, Dr. Summers.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm glad you got the scarce tickets for this event. We were worried about having too few space, and we were prepared to have other meetings and stuff, but we are really appreciative of you coming out. The good news is there were 4 people at the last meeting, and it was a really great session, so no pressure, no pressure. You'll be fine. We'll have a good time tonight. What I'd like to do, there's going to be 3 parts. I want to cover real quickly what your role is as compared to the overall strategic planning. The strategic planning process is on the website, all the details, all the processes. Video, I believe, of the strategic advocacy groups.
They'll be gone.
Yeah, so there's lots of information on that if you get excited about it after leaving here and want to know where this fit into the whole scheme of things. We basically will then turn over to Jim Lay. He's going to do a SWOT analysis with you, some conversation about what you want us to know, what we should know from your perspective. And then I'll come with a couple of preliminary draft documents that we want you to get your thoughts on what we've put down on paper so far. So that's kind of where we are. Now we have 5 people. I don't know whether the meeting will be a great meeting now. We only had 4 the last time. It was a great meeting. So. Okay. We're in great shape. What I'd like to do is just real quickly, the process began about a month and a half ago. There's a strategic advocacy group which has 5 parents on it, and then there's 20 other people that represent different segments, including students and faculty. That group meets once a month, and we do a series of things with them, get feedback from them. We are supplementing that with a series of sessions, which is what one of them is this session. We've got a series of 6 meetings that we're including people from the community, in this case parents, business people, community members, faculty, students, over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We also are meeting on a regular basis with senior leadership and walking through defining the current status of the district. We know it's an A school district, only one of 28 A school districts in the state of Ohio, so what we're talking about in this strategic plan is not how to recover from some crisis, but how do you set a new level of excellence that you heretofore have not achieved. We also are working with survey documents, so there will be a community survey that goes out fairly soon. We've surveyed the faculty and staff and students as well. All of those things will be pulled together and opportunities for improvement identified. We'll also see a couple documents tonight that you'll see that we're working on to help the school board decide their aspirations. We'll get input from you on that. The ultimate decisions about what ends up in the strategic plan and what actions are going to be taken from that moving forward. It will be the school board with lots of input from the senior leadership of the district. So that kind of describes where we are. We're interested in what you know and what you understand and your perspectives and things that we should know. And to kick this whole process off, I'm going to turn it over to Jim Lay. Jim Lay is a colleague of mine that I've known for a very long time. He helped us move our school district from near the bottom of performance to the highest performing, lowest cost, and largest school of our type in Southwest Ohio. While I was superintendent, he was a great advocate. He works with organizational design, continuous improvement. He also actually practices it. He's had the opportunity to leave a board position, become CEO of a retirement community to turn that system around, and did a great job of it. So it's not only from a lot of, what do you call this,
I'm an organizational tourist.
organizational tourist, wandering through and looking at other organizations, but also actual practice and experiences. So I think you all enjoyed. Jim, let's find out what these folks know and what we need to know.
Great. See, we're really growing. We're up to 6, I see now. That's really good. I want to spend a little time exploring with you around some structures and environments, but I also want to make sure I hear what you need us to hear. What we're trying to do is, as Dr. Summers referenced, in the strategic planning process, is we need voices to be bringing the relevant information and the perspectives that you bring. Tonight you're here as parents, but that doesn't mean in the course of the conversation you can't take other constituent roles as you feel are appropriate. So be thinking about it, what we would pursue tonight, not only in a parent's role, but you're a community member. This is part of your community that we are looking at, how we can make it as relevant and as impactful as we can make it for the future. Strategic planning is about figuring out not just where you would like to go. You can take it to where you can, but you're going to have to go to places that the markets in the world requires. So some of what has to happen is going to be brought into the conversation through you, and other parts of it you'll deal with in terms of whether it be resource limitations, possibilities. Strategy is about trade-offs. You can't do everything that you want to do, but what you want to do are the most important, most impactful, and most meaningful things you can to achieve the outcomes that you set out to achieve. What we're doing now is to try to work on the most important part of starting a journey, and that most people think it's the destination, when in fact, it's your location. Because if you know where you're going, but you don't know where you are, charting your path there is very difficult. Choosing your investments in what modes of transportation and what duration your process will take. So tonight we're looking to get not only perspective on where we are, but some of your perspectives on where we think it has to go. So that's what's going to guide our consideration tonight. I'm going to ask you, with 6 people here, we can do this very comfortably. I'm going to ask you to identify, if you would share your name. I'm assuming as parents you have children in the district and or children who are about to enter the district or some combination thereof. But we'd love to know what position in that overall continuum you represent. And then I have one other question. What is it? I went to the wrong sheet, I'm not. I can't let my thunder out too quickly. What led you to come tonight? Because that's meaningful. There's a reason you're here, other than you didn't come for the entertainment, because the show is not going to be that good. So who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
So I have 3 kids. 2 have graduated Springboro schools. I have a senior this year as well, so I'm almost done.
Almost done.
But I think it's important to know what's going on. Obviously, the schools are a large part of the community that I live in, so I think it's important. And I think that as good as our school district is, there's some significant things lacking.
Okay. Good. We're interested in learning what those attributes are that have made it successful for you, and what are you seeing of those gaps. So thank you. That's a great introduction. I'll turn here.
Sure. My name's Joette Kapoor. I have 2 kids. One of them is in college at Pop. at a conference swimming championship right now, so I'm kind of like.
Well, let me ask a question because I'm a former work associate. Did they beat Wabash?
Today, well, so far they've only had one relay, so it's the girls. And the girls, but I don't, you mean in the Moonbelt? You mean the football? The
From what I
answer is no.
understand is the answer is anything you can beat Wabash, you
Yes,
want
so
to.
Wabash is all guys and I have a girl, but
Uh-huh.
so tonight, I don't know, because I know
Okay.
the guys, I came here.
Yes, I worked with someone for whom beating Wabash still 20 years into his career was
But
relevant.
it is a big deal. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay.
It's amazing how big of a deal considering they're two small schools. Let's see, and I have another, I have a son who is a sophomore this year, so I'm not almost as done as you, but I'm getting closer. And I kind of agree with you. I didn't realize some of the things that were lacking until my daughter went to college. And when she was surrounded by other kids that had certain things that they did in school and she didn't, it never dawned on me. And then all of a sudden I was hearing her tell me that she doesn't know anybody that didn't do that in high school. And I'm like, that's interesting. So that's kind of what I'm going to share.
The other question I have to ask is, did the shirt come with the tuition or did
No,
you get
I had
extra?
mine.
Okay, I was just curious. Who wants to go next?
Hello.
Okay.
My name's Nicole Will. I have a kindergartner at Clear Creek and then a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so we are new in the process.
Okay.
But one of the things that really drew me to this event tonight is I work at Fairmont High School, and in Kettering, we just did our strategic plan last year, and I was on the leadership committee for the district team
Okay.
for writing that strategic plan. And so just going through that process as an employee made me that much more interested as a parent in a district
Okay.
that I'm new to, that I don't know much about, just to kind of see what the vision and mission is and where you guys feel you're going in that direction.
Well, and I would invite you to help us shape that. That's why we're here tonight. So you've got some unique experience there to draw upon, and that would be a valuable contribution. I'm just going to go to the left. I'm going to start pointing fingers now.
Janine Lawrence, I have a 3rd grader and a 7th grader.
Okay.
And so this is, my husband was active duty, so now I'm sort of settled here, so I've taken a great interest in the community and the schools. And part of my job is working with, I work for a defense contractor that just got their ISO certification, quality
Okay.
management, and so I work with the metrics and KPIs, aligning with the strategic plan, so again.
Would you
I'm
step
really
forward? You can
interested-
take this from here.
So I'm really
God,
interested.
I want her card.
I was going to say, this is actually a recruitment meeting, Bob. We've been successful. Good to have you. What branch of the service?
Air Force.
Air Force. Thank you. I have a son who is just about to become a major in the Marine Corps, and it's really quite a career and quite a commitment that you and your husband made, and much
This was our
recognized.
first assignment 20 years ago, and if you asked me if I would ever come back and live in Ohio, the answer would have been no. 20 years ago, but here we are, fast forward, 2 kids. And I've talked to, I mean, I have friends and family and kids all, all over the country, so I just
Yeah.
hear from them. And so from my perspective, I definitely see a lot of good things that are offered here that, some of the family members and other friends, kids don't, so.
My son has a sense of humor. He sent me a picture where Saddam Hussein was hanged today, because that's where he is right now, and I'm glad he's there now as opposed to when that happened. So, how about you?
Michelle Houghton. I am a homegrown Kettering native and ended up spending some time in Cincinnati, but back here 23 years ago. So this is really home to me.
Okay.
I have 3 children. I have a junior, I have a freshman, and I have an 8th grader.
Okay.
And all 3 of our children have been in Springboro schools the entire time, with the exception of my son, who was in private for a year, and then I went to private, and convinced that public is the way to go, and really, really impressed with what we've seen with Springboro. I've got a junior now who is clueless as his eye, and so just want to make sure that the schools continue to stay excellent and where they're going, and to just try to get as much information as I can about it.
Thank you. Best for last, right?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
My name is Tracy Kramer. I have a son who's a junior and then a son who graduated in 2016 and is in college right now. So they've had very different experiences, and I just
thought when I saw the email, this would be a good opportunity just to learn more about how others think about Springboro, and then I could share some of my thoughts too. I'm also in teacher preparation as my career, and so anything related to education interests me.
Great, great. Well, be vocal tonight, all of you, because I'm more than happy to sit here, ask questions, and hear lots of feedback, because that's what my role is. I'm going to give you one prompt as we go into this. I believe that since you chose to come here tonight voluntarily, there's something you need us to hear from you. That was a spur that you wanted to make sure when you saw this opportunity. You don't have to tell me right away. During the course of the process, don't leave without telling us what you need us to hear. Whatever it is in your perspective, if it doesn't fit in the conversation, I'm going to come back to this question at the end so that we make sure and get everything you have on your mind into the conversation. So what we're going to start with is what's called, I'll let you describe a SWOT analysis if you'd like. Do you remember that? Okay, all right. We're not going to do it with the process disciplines that you would be looking for. But what we're looking at is a SWOT analysis is not an archaic form of discipline, but it is a SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Strengths and weaknesses are internal to the district. What are we in terms of strengths and weaknesses? Opportunities and threats are the forces that are coming at us. And we don't get a choice as to whether forces impact us. Forces impact us, whether it be as simple as state regulation or changing trends or changing norms, or other forces that are unknown to me as a generalist in the process. So we're going to be talking about that as the second level of the conversation. Here's how I'm going to start. I'm just going to ask you, because I'm used to what I hear, there are some things lacking. I'm going to start on the other side. What are the things this district is good at?
Academics.
Academics, tell me more.
Strong teachers, very good parent support to
Okay.
students.
Depth or breadth?
What was-
Depth or breadth of academics?
I think breadth.
Okay? Okay? That's I'm going to explore your generalizations, and I don't mean that in a critical way. What else do you see about that that's a strength? Anything?
Well, my kids have been here from the beginning, and as I've seen things like the College Credit Plus and the
Okay.
AP classes, those things were massively different for my youngest availability than they were for my oldest, who graduated in 2013. So in that way, that's certainly significant, and just academic-wise, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I would add to that, there's more AP classes now that, that whole section's gotten a lot bigger in the last few years, I think.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna agree. I really was impressed with the AP offerings that my oldest took advantage of, and the quality of the instruction he received in those classes. He really was prepared for college. And then also just the variety of courses when it is time to schedule that are open to the students. Not a lot of kids don't have those kind of options at other high schools, so it is really great to see that variety.
You mentioned the concept of quality of instruction. What did that look like?
I felt like in the AP classes, my son was exposed to more critical thinking, discussion-based, being able to provide evidence for an opinion. There was a lot of writing and practice, and teachers even did special study sessions on the weekends and
Okay.
after school, and it was, he was well prepared, and it was quality.
Okay. Great. That's appreciated. What other strengths do you see in this district?
Well, the same lines as the gifted program that they have, having the district coordinator for the gifted program
Okay.
at the younger level, because I have the younger kids. Again, it's not a pull-out program, it's an integrated program, gifted intervention specialists, which I understand it's not a requirement, that they provide, so.
Okay. All right. What other strengths do you see?
Well, with 3 kids, having gone through every school and knowing almost every teacher, I would have to say probably almost every teacher is just absolutely amazing. There's a handful, maybe one or two in my, how many years that, you know. So just from the principals, so responsive, so willing to help. I know that my children have reached out to the teachers. So I think that is very commendable.
Okay, so if that's part of that quality instruction demonstration, that there is I heard, and just make sure I'm echoing this properly, I heard a personalization within the process, and you heard it. I'm guessing, if this is accurate, that teaching quality reflects relationship as well as content. Is that accurate?
I would hope so, yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Okay, you hope so. Does anybody have any experience to say, one way or the other? If not, go to another strength. Wait for the.
Yeah, so one thing I would say that I really noticed this year, and again, mine's a kindergartner, but communication, so we get the school weekly email update, the district one, and then you can sign up for the additional ones with like the mental health one that gets sent out. So that's been really huge. I also, there's been a lot of communication just from the teacher with families about, I mean, within 6 weeks of school starting, we knew about her Ames Web assessments and kind of what the plan was gonna look like for her as she moved forward with the rest of her kindergarten year in terms of reading and phonemic awareness and kind of all of that. Also, I really, really like that when she comes home with work to do, a lot of times that's really open-ended, so allowing her to kind of develop those problem-solving skills and communication skills rather than just copy these words, or it's been, yeah, it's been good.
What other strengths do you see in the district?
I think she said it, I would say the parents. And all the years and talking to different people, I think, even though there's not that many people here tonight, believe it or not, I think that there's a lot more engagement with parents in this community, even if you don't see it, you know, if it's behind the scenes, I think a lot of them know what's going on, and they just, maybe you don't notice it, but as compared, my kids play a lot of sports, and a lot of those sports, they're on teams with people that are not in Springboro. They're like, club sports and things where they're all over. And so I talk to a lot of parents with 2 or 3 sports per kid, from different communities all the time, and I see differences there. Like, I'll know something that's going on and they won't have a clue,
Okay,
which could get back to that communication.
I was gonna ask you, is it a result or is it an intent?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think that it is a result, but I think that, at least with my friends, if they don't know something that's going on, they're gonna follow up and ask. They're not gonna let it go.
Okay, so this is you would say the community of parents is very interested in their child's education.
Yes.
How is that for you? Did you notice the emphasis on very interested in their child's education? And that's why you're here tonight, and I applaud it. I'm not criticizing it at all.
I don't know that necessarily applies though, like for this type of meeting. I think, but when it comes down to your kids and their teachers and what's going on with them personally, I think that's where there's a focus.
Okay, so the interface at the relevant level, not that this is not relevant, but it's a different type of engagement. And, a lot of people can be intimidated by the strategic planning. I don't know anything how to do it in that. And all you have to do is know what you know. So, as there are upcoming meetings, if you talk to people and they just want to be involved and have a voice be heard, we want to hear the voice. So I'll turn you into promoters for the opportunity as well. But I'll let you judge at the end whether it's a good idea. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, one other strength that I've really noticed is, like, I know my daughter, she has pride in Springboro. I mean, she's been in the schools for like 6 months, but through like the powwows that they do, and every kindergartner got a shirt, a mini Blue Crew shirt. Today was one of their powwows. I mean,
I see some reminiscence on this side, right?
I asked her about her powwow today, and what did you talk about? We talked about being respectful, and we talked about our words, and our words are responsibility and respect and trustworthy, and there were 5 of them, I don't remember what the other ones were, but I mean, like, I took her to a Fairmont basketball game a couple of weeks ago, they were playing Xenia, and I'm not wearing a Firebird shirt, Mom, I'm a Panther. I'm like, well, that's fine, we're not playing the Panthers tonight, but like, they instill that really early in those students, I think, and I think that's really good.
also, there's a source of pride that just radiates within the district, and I feel it. You know, this is not this is my first exposure to Springboro. Been an interesting thing. I told my wife this is a place we ought to drive up to as we look to downsize. This is an area of the world that seems to make a lot of sense, but because of the school district and what I'm hearing, this is a great place, and I'm hearing all kinds of span on that. Okay, let's flip it.
Also with the communication, not just the regular communication, which is great, I love the principal and the district newsletters. When something happens, I've been happy with the response. So the district will put out a notification explaining, you know, like if there's been a lockdown or some security issue.
Okay.
I've liked that they've been transparent
Okay.
and sharing what they're able to
Okay.
share with the community.
Great, go ahead. I can see you were ready. Oh, okay. Let's go to the weakness side. I'm gonna put it this way. What does the district not do well?
I'm gonna speak, this is not my own experience, but I've heard it from a number of parents who have special
Okay.
need kids. And it's kids who are on IEPs and everything, I've heard that it is very lacking in that area for
Okay.
kids with special needs.
Okay? Okay. Do you have any more insight beyond that?
I don't,
I know
I wish
you're.
I did, I just have heard it from a number,
Okay.
so I guess that's.
So
what I
it's
wanted to
the
bring up.
breadth, it's the breadth of information that we should, okay.
Yeah, and then my personal thing that I think is missing and is a lack of diversity, and that's lack of racial diversity and lack of diversity of thought. And I'm not talking about the students, I'm talking about administrators and teachers.
Okay, diversity of thought. That takes me in a lot of internal directions. I'm gonna let you lead me to the one you're expressing.
Well, it's being different is not particularly celebrated
Okay,
among the, and I don't mean that that's not, I don't know that the teachers teach that, it's the culture here. And it's the
Okay.
culture in this community, actually, a little bit, so
okay.
that I think is unfortunate. As far as it's, I don't know, it's sort of that pack mentality. If you're a certain way and then you are celebrated, and if you're not, then you're not so much.
Okay. Okay. All right.
That doesn't mean you can't get through and be successful,
Mhm.
but it's not as great as a.
The path is different to try to
is.
make it happen.
is.
And it has more challenges in it. That would be the implication.
Yeah, and as far as the diversity of color and people of color in the schools, I think I really never paid attention to it because our community is large, I mean, you've seen it, it's largely white,
Mhm.
right? But my daughter, who's in graduate school at Ohio State this year, is just now going to the program she's doing is placing her in schools, and placing her in schools for her training in a much more diverse thing. And she called me in a shocked and amazed way that there were actually African-American teachers and administrators in the school where she was. And you know, shame on me that I hadn't exposed her to that before, but I wish she had been exposed to that in the school district a little bit more.
Okay. Other thoughts about things that the district doesn't do well, or doesn't do as well as you would like to see?
I can echo the special needs again, not me personally. I work with somebody who has in Springboro pulled their child. And I don't know all the details,
Mhm.
but you know,
Sure.
he would have been perfectly willing to share, we just didn't. But I remember he was very upset, with what was going on and how it was going on, and things like that.
All right.
It was a couple years ago or a year ago. Personally, the one that the biggest thing, and this may sound very specific, but I'm gonna go there, is science fairs. So my daughter's in a research program, and she applied to that program, there were over 100 applicants, about 5 of them got in. She was one of 2 people that applied that had never done a science fair in high school, out of 100.
Mhm.
So apparently, I remember them doing them when they were like littler, but in high school, apparently, they just don't do them in Springboro, and people were just astounded when she applied, and she had to fill out this big long application and list all of her experience, and she didn't hang, I mean, she made things up, like she tried to figure out, you know, what could we call a project, you know, but
The
the feedback that I-
entrepreneurial spirit
yeah.
came through.
And she got in, but it was, she didn't have an actual, she couldn't point to it. She couldn't say, we were in this science fair when I was a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, I mean, and apparently that was very unusual. And even just kind of echoing that, her swim coach at the time works for Kettering School Systems, and he does a lot of, he'll do a lot of, you know, kind of letters of recommendation and things like that. And he also, when she told him she didn't have any, he was surprised too. So apparently that is more surprising than I thought, and I never thought about it in high school until she got to college. So I just thrown that out there.
Okay,
I don't know why, I don't know.
well, there's a reason.
Yep.
We need to know, you know, the best kept secrets don't help us to do the right things in the process, so, you know, I want to open that window. From this side of the audience, who wants to go first? Let's go there.
I think the curriculum, I've got a junior and a freshman and a eighth, so we're all in the eighth, so I'm in the high school mode with the curriculum. I think languages, I think we need to offer Chinese, I think we need to offer, a little bit more. I think there are some other classes I was very pleased to see, psychs and socials and abnormal psychologists and stuff like that, but I think maybe just a little bit more of a breadth in terms of varieties.
I want to explore this to raise another topic. Why Chinese?
Because I think it is something that we really need to go down that road. I don't think, my personal opinion is French and German, I think they're not gonna go where. I
Okay.
think Chinese and Spanish are
Okay.
where we need to be.
Okay, all right. What are other thoughts about where the district is not doing as well as you would like to see?
Website, which I know they agreed it, but I still don't think it's where it needs to be. I look up things on a calendar and can never find it. It's still not.
Okay, because I was going to say where on the website, I heard calendar, is that the same thing you're?
No, just in general, I think that it just in general, you just can't find things in the place you would expect to find them.
I looked for this meeting tonight because I wanted to make sure I needed the time was right, and I couldn't find it even on the calendar. All these sports things were listed for tonight,
Right.
but this particular meeting was not listed. I did have to go back on Facebook several posts ago and found it again. But that's too hard, right? I mean,
I did the same thing, I found the old email and
Yeah.
then clicked 2 or 3 times until I found it said LGI.
Yeah, so that, I hate the calendar too. I've hated it since I've been here.
Well, I'm going to throw in an anecdote here, which is not designed to refute what you're saying, but I want to applaud you because there's a speaker I heard one time who talked about how you get people with commitment to get involved in things, and you hold it at the least convenient time in the most difficult to access place. And the people who find it and get there are the ones who are committed to the work you're doing. So thank you for the search. Thank you for your perseverance. That's what's important. Other thoughts? Folks over here.
I was very happy with my oldest's instruction at the high school level with the APE, and I felt like he was pushed and there were high expectations for him. My youngest is more in the college prep level classes, and I feel like the expectations could be higher. He did a College Credit Plus writing assessment, and I was blown away with how horrible it was. And when I sat down to really talk to him.
How horrible it was.
His work.
His work, not
His
the
work.
assessment, okay.
And this was after his sophomore year. So, and sitting down and talking to him about just how he organizes his thoughts to write an essay, to create a thesis statement and really defend it. He had no idea what I was talking about. And I was blown away by that. So I spent the summer teaching him how to do that. And
That's the parent involvement.
so my
Yeah, exactly.
my oldest knew that, and so the only thing I can think of is just what he was exposed to in his classes versus my youngest who took just the more traditional college prep
Okay.
classes.
And I can echo that one too. My older daughter took all the, that, and my younger son, who could qualify for the honors, decided to ditch a couple of them this year, and one of them he ditched was the honors English because it required all this summer stuff, right? And we allowed him to do it, and we allowed him to ditch it, but I agree, I've seen his writing and I've seen things, and I don't think it's that great, but it's his highest grade. He's in the CP, and it's extremely high grade, and I just look at it, like, how are you getting a 98 in English? Like, how's that even happening? Like,
Right, yeah, his grades were not indicative, yes, absolutely.
It's like, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
So I think there's a big gap, maybe, between those upper levels and the CPs.
So I just want to make sure the CP is college prep.
Yeah,
Okay.
but, yeah.
Just make
Well,
sure.
I have to weigh in though, because my daughter who's in school right now took all her English at College Credit Plus, so I can't relate to her, but both my kids, my oldest daughter was in honors English, my son was in regular. And I think his writing is quite good, and yeah, so it might have been just the teacher.
Maybe it's just the teacher.
I don't know, but he's.
Maybe your son might be
Yeah,
a
I thought his papers were graded hard, like when I looked at them,
If
so.
it makes you feel any better, when my son was a freshman, he dumped the assessment test to get in it because he didn't want to do all the work. He didn't even.
It's pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. But he's doing okay, so we made it through.
But that
I
actually
understand your
brings
dilemma.
up- But that actually brings up a good point that I've seen too, and that is differences, and I did actually write this down earlier, differences between teachers. So, let's say my daughter took the class 2 years ago, and I can go, all of your stuff is still around the house. So, my son's in that same class this year, and I'll see, what are you doing for labs? And then I'll look at what she did for labs in their night and day, and it's different teachers. And that's happened more than 2 or 3 times. So it's kind of, there must be a big difference maybe in, I mean, I know teachers are different, right? But just in what's going on. Like, my daughter might have done 20 labs and my son's got 3 or something, stuff like that.
Just to explore that, make sure I have a clear understanding. It would not be a consistency. Is it a consistency of content or a consistency of learning?
I don't know if it's content, I think it's learning. Again, one of them is getting a piece of paper saying, if you do these 3 things, what happens? And the other one did those 3 things to see what happened, like in science or something. One's a lab and one is just reading a book or something.
Okay. What else? This is not painful. This is useful. So just tell us what's on your mind. Okay, you can come back to this concept if you think of something. Now I want to take you external. This is not about Springboro. This is about forces that can, will, are likely to, or potentially could impact Springdale from an opportunity standpoint or from a threat standpoint. What are the things that come to mind when I ask you about opportunities in today's world that the district should be looking to be a part of?
Volunteering, more volunteering. I don't know if that, again, daughter in college, and she, with all the stuff, they had to do mandatory volunteering, and at some point they stopped that.
That's an interesting concept.
And-
Mandatory volunteers.
Well, they could pick, but there was like a certain amount of hours, or, something, it was like National Honor Society, I don't even know, but
Every senior had to do it to graduate,
Yeah.
my daughter did, and it was gone by the time
and it
my
was
son.
gone. And that's another one of those things, now, this is for anybody who doesn't have kids in college, you can have a really, really smart academic kid that does no volunteering, and you will get more money and more opportunity for scholarships if you just have an average kid, potentially, that has a good ACT score, but just has a plethora of community service, and I don't see Springboro pushing that enough.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is a rounded graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the volunteering is the part I see that's missing right off the top.
So the impact on the graduate from some of these gaps has significance that you
It goes
quantified
right to
in that
scholarship
fashion.
money, yeah, you'll
Okay.
see it, you'll start to see,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That's another one of those things, when she went to college and she started talking to all these people and said, well, they were like, well, we had to do this and this and this, and they all had all these things. She had some, but my son, because it's not done in Springboro anymore,
Yeah,
it's
he's not
harder.
going for it.
Yeah, and he's not looking for it yet, he's too young, but still, I mean, yeah, it's not, the school system doesn't.
Okay. Opportunities, things that are
Well,
out there.
we have this thing every so often with the levy, so that could be an opportunity, it could be a threat, I guess, right?
What's the opportunity and what's the threat?
Well, the opportunity, if it passes, obviously, there'll be funds for whatever is needed. If the threat will be if it doesn't, and every year of that, every time that comes around, there's always that significant threat. And, I've been in the school district long enough to see when senior busing went, high school busing went away, et cetera, those kinds of things. So those are certainly threats too.
What is it that you see in the community that leads the threat of not passing to be the case?
What is that I see in the community?
Because the community is where that decision's gonna come out of the community's input.
History, Dory.
Yeah, it's history and it's the culture here. It's
Okay.
it's very fiscally conservative, I would say too much so, because.
Are those capitalized in this case?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so in that way, and it's just, not valuing education, wanting the kids to be great, but not wanting to put the money into the needs for that, to do that. So,
Okay.
That could get back to more volunteering though. My daughter twice tried to help out the school, and this might go back to the you can't do it, to help out and get some things done that they couldn't get updated and stuff, you know, within the school system. And she was told that the only reason they couldn't do it is because it would give her access to things that as a student she couldn't get access to. Examples would be, you know, updating sports rosters and things like, you know, those types of things where,
I used to do
you know,
that,
there,
but I guess
you know,
I can
those
see
types
that.
of things where, you know, like, it's just a lot of work for people, right? You know, people are busy. And maybe things that should take a few weeks to get updated were taking months. So she tried. But the kids, it kind of gets back to that volunteering. She tried to help and she was told that she couldn't. So,
What other-
you know, kind of gets back to some of that too.
What else do you see out there? That's really important for us to be thinking about
Well,
as we,
certainly the continued growth of this community.
Right.
Families moving in, we just had this thing here recently, I think it was rejected, however, of them wanting to make a large, new neighborhood right up here, right up the hill from the high school here. That just, those kinds of neighborhoods generally bring in a lot of families, which bring in a lot of kids, which bring in a lot of kids in the school. So, that's an opportunity, I guess, because it means more tax dollars, but it's also a threat, because we've seen this already when it grew quickly, and when there were, I think there are still kids in trailers, are there still classrooms in trailers? Sort of. Okay.
But they're attached to buildings.
Okay,
so-
right. So, those things don't have, so yes. The growth can be a good and a bad thing.
okay,
The growth was my biggest thing too, when I was thinking about coming here, was like, how do you plan to prepare for
the inevitability.
growth that's coming, right? Because they just keep popping up houses, like, I live in one of those new neighborhoods, in one of those new houses.
So are you part of the
and-
solution or part of the
Yeah.
problem?
Are you a
I
threat or an
promise I will
opportunity?
vote for the levy.
See,
But-
that's a net gain.
I do think it's interesting, like, I mean, since we've lived here, there has not been a levy, and that's, I know there's kind of a history there with struggling with passing those, but at the same time, like, I live in one of those brand new neighborhoods with families mostly our age, low or early to mid-30s, with younger kids who are all getting ready to enter the schools, and I think that gives you the opportunity to try to capture those people and have them invested in the schools early. Because I do think there's a lot of opportunity there if you can have the funds to grow and continue. I mean, I think that's where you can add the Chinese, you can have more course offerings, the more students you have, but you have to have space, you have to have teachers, and, I mean, there's permanent improvement bond that has to pass, so levy, I mean, those are different pots of money that you have to have available. And if you don't have them, then I think that's a huge threat. So,
I'm just gonna play this out with you. A business would say more customers is good.
Not if there's not the capacity.
If that,
to serve them.
if they're looking for growth, that's true.
Okay, so,
But what if they're not? I mean, that's the
well,
question.
that's the
Or what if
question.
they can't, right?
That's the question.
Right.
Are we seeking a school district that is in it's reached its capacity and we need to make sure that doesn't change? Do we think that's reasonable?
Probably not. I mean, there's still plenty of places to build houses in this community. I mean, probably will be eventually built.
Okay. So there's an element of opportunity and an element of threat in that conversation.
and I know too.
Because I think about, excuse me a second, I think about your comment about diversity. Status quo isn't going to bring a difference.
But like I was gonna say with kindergarten this year, my daughter's in AM. There's 25 kids in her class, the PM class has 16. So, but again, and I get it because of busing and transportation, they have to do one side AM, one side PM, but I just see, I mean, I don't want my kid in a class size of 30 plus students, so that's kind of where the opportunity and threat can be, it can be
You know,
great or it can be bad.
Yeah,
Bring up the
it-
half-day kindergarten, is that still normal everywhere else? Like, I had a full day, everywhere, I grew up in New York State, it's full day, it's been full day for 30 years, like, is that still, I mean, my kids are so old that I don't notice it anymore, but is that half-day versus full day a controversy anymore? It used to be, there used to be a lot of talk about it.
I'm guessing if it were, you would have heard it.
No.
A lot of districts are moving
Totally
to
with
that.
you.
I know that
Yeah.
Kettering next year will be full day. Centerville has a levy next November, and that's
There you
one of
go.
the things for the 2020 school year, they will be implementing full day. I think
Let me
Franklin
play
does
that
a
out with
full
you.
day.
Why would that be the case if it's driven by parents who can't find the proper daycare versus an academic situation? That's why, you know, the
Is that what you
comparison,
think it is?
I don't know.
Oh.
The comparison is short until we understand the rationale.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing we have to try to get underneath and find out the whys of things to really understand them. Because the easiest thing to draw a firm conclusion about is the thing you don't have any information on.
Well, I just brought it up because I forgot about it, but I remember years ago, it was a discussion because a lot of the other school systems were moving to full day. And I don't think it was a daycare thing. I mean, I actually think it was academic, like, you know, and we just didn't have the busing or the space to be able to pull it off.
One of the things we're trying to accomplish in this process is there's a difference between what we think and what we know. And when we know, we can make great decisions. That's what we want to get, is information. That's why we have you here, is to help us with that, rather than say, well, this is what we think parents want. Let's understand it. Opportunities and threats. What other things are out there that you're seeing? I'm always amazed when technology doesn't come up.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking there. But that is both an opportunity and a threat, I suppose.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it brings ancillaries and it brings impact. Yep. What others?
I was going to say something about more career exposure, more maybe mentorships with businesses for students. I think that would be a good opportunity to explore.
And even that could be combined with that whole volunteering thing
Yeah.
too, you know, like ways to.
Other thoughts?
I was gonna say the technology, I think, is a huge issue. So I have a girlfriend of mine who, she has children that are older than my age. And so my junior is one of the, I think right when they start getting the smartphones. Okay, now my 8th grader has had nothing but a smartphone.
I'm learning that gets younger every year.
And so I think that's the issue because, you know, things are changing very rapidly. And as a parent, it's really difficult to, and I've applauded the school because I think that they're working really hard with the speaker series. And I mean, our kids are getting thrown unbelievable stuff. I mean, we're talking about pornography, we're talking about sexting. And it's just, I think our children are growing up in a different environment than just the children who were seniors and juniors 5 years ago because of the technology, because they've grown up with it more, longer. So I don't know, I think that's probably a universal problem, but I think, one thing that I have seen that the district has done really well is, when 13 Reasons came out, bam, they had something in there. And when there was an issue, my son's a junior, there was an issue with a rape, there was an issue with suicidal ideology, and boom, they split them off, and my son was one of the first freshman class where they had freshmen that was separated from sophomore, juniors, and seniors. So I think, it's just a different world that has become a very rapidly different world.
And the pace of that change.
And you can't throw it out. I mean, technology, I'm kind of at the, okay, I can't put the limits on it, so I have to teach my children and raise them up so that they make the wise choice themselves. And they don't go to these sites and they don't do this because they're getting hit all the time. So it's just a very, very difficult time raising teenagers right now.
Other thoughts? Okay, I'm gonna go back to my question. Have we gotten an answer to what is it that we need to be sure to hear from you? What do we need to know? What's missing from the feedback we've received so far?
I've got
Did-
one. Oh,
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, this is the
This might not be-
version of Speak Now or
This-
Forever Hold Your Peace.
Yeah, and this is like my last thing, so I'm gonna throw it out there because I'm thinking technology. So, difference again between the college kid and the high school kid. The college kid, it was kind of like, some online, some books, you know, kind of a mix of things. And she was very able, when she did not have Wi-Fi or a data connection, to get something done. So if she was on the way in a bus to a sports thing for an hour, they could all get work done on that bus. Or if they were coming home at 11 o'clock at night, they could actually get work done on that bus. Or, you know, to and from places, right? Now, my son is 100% online. So he gets, and again, maybe, that's why I said this could be controversial, but the way my daughter succeeded getting everything done she needed to get done is she made use of those times where, you know, she was in a car for an hour in the middle of the week trying to get something done. My son can't do that. And so he'll get home from something at 10 o'clock at night, and now he will have 2.5 hours of stuff ahead of him, where my daughter would have already got an hour to done, because it's 100%.
We had the same, I mean, we had the power go out, and my daughter's like, I can't do my work. I mean, we were running to Panera to go get Wi-Fi, so she
Yeah,
could do
yeah,
her
it's like
homework.
maybe a little bit more of a balance, like it
First
almost,
world
I
problems.
work in the IT industry, that's what I
But
have
when
done my
everything's
whole
online.
career, so I get all the technology.
There was
It's
no-
almost like we did one to one extreme.
Okay, so,
There's a lot of things that have been studied that says that taking notes by hand and writing things down is much more
Yeah.
better for you to just learn. I mean, I'm old school, I still would take notes, written notes, rather than typing them into a tablet or whatever at work, so, I don't know, I'm pretty old school. But my daughter is the youngest, of course, is almost everything she's doing is online. I mean, I do love that her backpack does not weigh 500 pounds, because my older kids definitely have that problem,
well,
but.
I'm gonna use your perspective for why I take notes. It used to be because I can't type legibly enough.
Awesome.
You know, that's why that's still,
Oh, okay.
I'm one of those.
Well, if your writing is good, then take the notes.
you know, that's-
Well, and as a parent, try to help them study when there's nothing written down, like, you know, that's a good, wait till they get, I mean, it's difficult, everything's shown.
Okay, how are we doing? Anything more that needs to come into the conversation? Because we have another set of things we want to work on. You can still add it later on.
Well, the only other thing that I thought was a weakness, and this is really just pertains to the high school level of things, and that is the scheduling issues. And I know that there's a lot of variety of classes that the classes offer, but inevitably, at the beginning of every semester, there's a whole lot of kids that are, 1 billion kids in study hall because they can't seem to get, and scheduling's all, you know, I'll hear all these, I'll see all these things on our active Springboro Facebook page complaining about, my son has 3 study halls, you know, and all this. Now, this was not taken over the weeks, my daughter's in college credit, plus she goes and she leaves. But for people who don't put their kids in that, there's sometimes a weird amount of study halls, a lot of wasted time in school, it just seems like.
Are they changing that though?
I don't know, at the
My
beginning
son
I did
came home
hear
and told me
comments
something
about people, it's like the whole auditorium being full of kids in the study hall. I presume that got taken care of within a number of weeks, but why can't that system be better, I guess? That's my
Okay.
question. Why can't that system be better for scheduling?
Okay. All right. I'll turn it over to Dr. Summers, and we're going to get to phase 2 of this conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you for hanging in there on that conversation. We've got 2 documents we're going to share with you. These are draft documents. They're kind of really at the very beginning of the process, so your input will be very valuable. The first one, we're going to share a set of what we call board aspiration statements, what the board hopes. We asked the board to brainstorm what would the school look like in the future if it was an ideal school moving forward. So we're going to share that with you. The document is very draft, so we'll show you the original brainstorming that the board did and their voting, and then a set of statements that we're testing the ground with folks like you, and then it'll go back and it'll be finalized by the board. So the first document is, again, this notion of if I looked out into the future some X number of years, and I thought about what I would like to see appear for Springboro City Schools, these would be what they are. So let me walk you through them. Do we have enough? Yeah. So the first, again, the bottom part was the actual words and language that the board shared. So I want you to know that that's the board's work. This at the top is the first draft that we put together. And so it's not the board's work at the top, it's our attempt to try to bring meaning to what all was said. So what the Springboard the Springboro Board said was that the city schools will be successful when our graduates experience the success they desire in life. It's an interesting statement around student performance that's not focused on passing courses or just getting to graduation, but to actually be well enough prepared that you can be successful in life in whatever pursuit that you have. So it's kind of open to the idea that students aren't going to go one single path. There's a multiple pathway to that, but the district has to, if you think about it, with this aspiration statement, the district really has to make a concerted effort to know what you need to know in order to be successful over the long term. Second one, our programs develop the whole student as define what it means to be future ready. So the whole student is an interesting concept that is more than just academics. There are some other things involved with it. But that we ought to care about the whole student, not just portions of that student. Third one is our exceptional educational experiences make school a desirable place to be for students. In other words, the kids, if you didn't require school and they woke up in the morning, they would come to school because they wanted to be there. Now, if you have some teenagers, I understand that's a hard concept. We've got 4, so we understand that. But if you think about it, the school would be so exciting that they would actually want to come. I had a young man come to my class when I was teaching. I taught ag education, and he actually skipped out of the rest of the school day, but he came to my class. Now, not because of me, I don't think it was because he loved ag class, but that's the kind of thing that you want to think that the kid, given a choice, would want to be in school. The fourth is the very best faculty and staff are attracted and retained. The idea being that it doesn't matter how much money's in the bank, buildings, or programs, or anything else, if you don't have high-quality staff, especially faculty and the folks that work with the students directly. And then the last one is, you see it under the first A down there, employees are well-resourced, students are given facilities and resources needed to succeed. You talked a little bit about the levy opportunity threat kind of conversation. The fifth one is community investment in our schools fully supports our desired student success. The notion that the community and the school has a relationship that says if you spend X, we'll deliver on Y performance on the students. If you give us X plus 5, we'll give Y plus 5 performance for students. That you would actually have a relationship with the community that it isn't an expense, it isn't a tax burden, it's an investment in some future prosperity of the community. So, big question, simple question. What do you think of? What do you think of the 5 aspirations? If we were able to accomplish these things, the school district accomplish these things, would you be proud of Springboro?
Sure, I mean, it wouldn't be, right? I don't know that that's everything, though.
Tell me a little bit more.
Oh, I don't know, that's just my initial thought, I would think that not only Springboro's city schools, but any school district could say these same 5 things, right?
So with our experience, it is manifested differently. This is a different, when you ask those questions, you get different kinds of focus. Yeah, they have some common themes. Almost always boards think about student success, but how they describe it is entirely different. This one in particular, I've not seen a school that's so clear on this notion of success that they desire in the future. A lot of them will think about college, or they'll think about graduation, but your point's well taken. Almost always they have something about faculty and staff. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first 2, I think all 5 points are good. I think what is success? And I think that is the definition because, success to somebody would be you got accepted to a decent college, and but you can go to the best college and end up not, so.
End up
the
being an
life
IKEA,
skills,
no income
life
kid with an
skills.
education.
Yeah, so I think success is very individual. And I think that, as a parent, I'm trying to teach my child how to balance a checkbook and how to write a check and, how to open that up, like, and how to go grocery shopping and how to cook. And so just basic life skills. So what is success?
So I guess that's why I first when it says success they desire, right?
But you're
that
asking-
still has to be defined.
Yeah, this
because-
is broad.
Yeah, it's too broad, so some more specifics, that they are respectful individuals and they contribute to the community, maybe use more tangible, but,
Does the process take these as the overarching goals and then take a next step where you then define them? I mean, so it goes
Yeah,
down all
so
of it.
what these aspiration statements do is set kind of where you want to be in a very broad sense, and then we'll have to put metrics to them. And then you gotta have processes to deliver on that. So the questions you're asking are beautiful questions that we'd have to build in, because one of the things, what's interesting is the desire in life means that you're gonna revert it from not a corporate decision, but an individual decision. So it's probably gonna be a parent-child decision for a long time, but how do you prepare young people to make good decisions about what their educational pathway is, what their career pathway is, and we'll take a look at that on the next document a little bit. But yeah, great questions. A lot of openness to it. It's certainly beyond the state minimums. It doesn't say we'll get an A on the report card. And by the way, some districts, that's what they put. You've achieved that, so you've got other options to move forward.
So I just have one comment on the faculty and staff where, obviously we want to attract and retain the best faculty, but I think we want their investments somehow within the community. We want them to want to come to work too, want to be part of the community.
Excellent
So I
point.
just kind of, I don't know. I feel like I liked how the others were worded and that one just stuck out
Stuck.
as like it could be worded differently.
So when I hear so one of the things that we really, maybe the statement, we want engaged faculty and staff or
Something, because the other where we want to make the one before it's 3 year exceptional education means the school is our place for students to be able, again, I think we want the same for the teachers, we want.
Got it.
You could say, yeah, and staff.
In some way to be part, just consider themselves part of the community, want to be here, that kind of.
excellent point.
Like making it a destination district for educators in the area.
Yeah, it was interesting, the one that actually was down at the bottom, people come here to go to our schools because they're good, was one of the comments that I don't know that we were able to capture in these first 5, but that's a destination school district for the faculty and staff.
Right,
Other thoughts?
I think that's definitely neat, because I don't think it is a destination for faculty and staff right now, because of this will be unfortunately have the levy not passing, those kinds of things.
Yeah, there's been some discussion, we've got to still do the analysis work on the attraction and retention both is a question that we're working with on a very factual basis. Other thoughts? Here's what I'll offer you is, as you think about it and read it, if you want, you can, after we're done, we've got one more document to go, but we'll give you a card and you can send us your thoughts moving forward. The last item on the evening's agenda is a document that has actually come from quite a bit of research, and it's a starting point, not an ending point. It is trying to answer that, make that first cut at answering the question, what does a future-ready graduate really look like? I think there's 2 of them right there.
Oh, sorry.
Didn't know how valuable they were. We got it. So what we had two choices to go. One is to spend about an hour and a half with you and have you freelance a set of ideas about what does it mean, what kind of knowledge, skills, and attitudes does a person need to be future ready? What do you need to be successful in life would be the basic question. And that takes a fairly long period of time. The advantage it has is that you get to really think about it deeply, directly. The other option, which we chose, was to take a set of skill sets that have been developed by lots of research and lots of study and analysis. In fact, this particular set involves about 16 major organizations over about a 10-year period to try to really put this to it, and ask the question, which one of these makes sense to you and which one don't. This is not the final set of skills. I've been through this enough that I know that some people will have modifications. Your community, Springboro, is unique in how it views the world and what it wants. But what we're looking for is your sense of what you value on this as far as what students that would graduate and leave school would know and be able to do. Item one, if you look at content knowledge, is where education in schools spend a lot of time. Math, science, English, social studies, foreign language, arts. G and H are two that actually here you have a career technical school district that provides programs here and in other schools, and then global knowledge. The other three tend to be the areas that a lot of the business and community world kind of takes a look at. And so the second one is habits of success. This often comes in terms of social emotional learning, other words, but it's basically around work ethic, self-direction and perseverance, tenacity, grit, positive mindsets, learning strategies, learning how to learn and to continuously do that as life goes forward. Social skills and responsibilities, things like ethics. You talked about the social media, the big challenge around social media and the choices that are available to students today that were never available to us when we were young. Well, some of you it was because you're still young. For me, I can remember when the internet was invented by whoever invented it. So service, I heard a lot of people talk about volunteer and everything else. Service is one of the habits of success. Creative know-how, 21st century skills was a name that was used a lot of the items: critical thinking, creativity, communications, collaboration. It adds D and E. The D is information, media, and technology. You were talking about that a little bit. E is actually practical life skills, where you talked about balancing a checkbook and writing a check. Think of that area down there, managing personal finances, health, and independence. And then item 4 is a series of statements, but I want you to kind of capture it in that it is the way that students develop the skills to be able to answer 4 questions. What am I passionate about? What am I good at? What does the world need? And what will the world pay for? So if you can imagine those 4 questions, and it really talks about how do you get to know yourself and your own interests, how do you figure out what your talents are, how do you figure out what's out in the world, what can I make a living at, and how would I do that. It doesn't say whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee or whatever, it doesn't tell you how to get there. And then what's the educational pathway to get to the goals that I have in order to have a purposeful life. So item 4 is not you got to choose a career. It's the ability to make this wayfinding capability through a very complex world. If you think about it, young people today, you have infinitely greater options of education and employment than I did when I was young. I mean, there was only one choice, 1 or 2 choices that you had to go, and then you went from there. So what I'd like you to do is, first of all, ask the question, do these kind of make sense to you? What are you thinking right now? The other is, if you could, either now or take it home and just email it to me, we'd like you to circle all the ones that you like, cross off the ones that you don't, and add words if it's missing. So, what are you thinking? Interesting?
Yeah, I thought it was,
Yes.
I thought this was really good coverage.
This is very good.
I think it's really hard to cover all these things in 4 years of high school.
Well, the one thing, a friend of mine that worked on this project for a while says he wakes up in the middle of the night in fear that he'll read a syllabus that says there's a perseverance course. He says perseverance is a skill, not a course. So, yeah, great point. What's interesting is if you cross over between the business world and the school world, there's a lot of features of schools that are actually terribly counterproductive to kids learning what life's going to be like. Like most schools, if you get a D, you get credit for the course. What happens at work when you do D work?
Well, if you just do it once, it's not much. But-
How about if you do it regularly?
Well, that's a problem.
Yeah. Absences, tardies. What happens when you're absent? You know, there's strange places now. There's some workforce changes, but you can start to see just real subtle things that don't require any more time. It's a failure. If a kid flunks a quiz, it goes in the grade book usually. At work, if you fail at something and you learn from it and then you move on, how does that work differently? Well, of course you have, especially if you do any creative work or experimental work, you kind of nudge and try. So those are interesting adjustments. Good point. This would be a challenge, and that's part of the reason that we share it with you, to know what the priorities would be for you. And what other thoughts?
For me, it would be hard to cross off anything.
Yeah,
Um,
this is really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
To say that that's something isn't important, it's all important. When I think about working with, I work at a college, so I work with college students, and the number two, when I have concern conferences with the students, they're always because of the issues in number two. So,
It's like the word teamwork was missing, but I was looking for where you put that, because back to the work, you know, a lot of places, you don't do a lot by yourself, right? It's like you're, yeah, is the word
Yeah.
team or something in here?
If it isn't, I would be shocked.
I think it's with the collaboration.
Yeah, it's gotta be in
Collaboration.
here somewhere,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was like, yeah. To me, that's one of those.
Yep, actually, the nod to teamwork effectively with diverse teams.
There, I read the paper.
Even got the word diverse. I didn't even remember that one.
Yep,
so.
I see it
That's
now.
good, that's good.
I was struck by the kindergarten experience that you described and how relevant so many of those things were outside of the
Oh, yeah,
academic
yeah,
sense.
when you were talking about problem solving and everything else, that's the interesting thing, a part of this, there's other work that we're talking with the faculty and staff around. This is, you know, how do you cover all this? Well, it changes how you think about schooling and education. And so we're exploring the extreme possibilities so that faculty here can say, what's the community really want? What do we really want to do?
They're definitely doing some, I mean, even at the kindergarten through, I mean, somebody said we can't cover all this in high school, they're covering, I mean, I don't know, again, everybody's on the same page and doing all of this, but, I mean, the constant projects and leading and talking in front of the class from kindergarten up. We never did that, I think I did that in high school and I was scared. Or maybe college, I mean, I hated to do that, but, I mean, now it's second nature, but they always have to get up and present something. So I mean, I think things are.
Communications, yeah.
Yeah, changing and evolving, not always positive, my gosh, it's my experiences trying to work with teams that don't always want to work, but again, I have those experiences at work myself, so, you know, it's a learning experience, and these are great.
You know, if you see this as really comprehensive and important, take it home and circle the things that are most important, because taking on the volume simultaneously becomes a
Maybe
huge challenge. But finding out where the greatest leverage points are in the eyes of the parent is really valuable to us.
Excellent point.
Circle under each one, is that where you?
Yeah, what I would recommend, if the ideal would be is each letter. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H on item 1. That's about as close, but you can do whatever you want to highlight the things that are really important to you. And Jim makes a good point. If you don't cross them out, we assume that they're all valuable to you, but if you can prioritize some and help us kind of get feedback on what that might look like. We've got lots of groups to do this with, and the more you get feedback, the more you get a sense of where the community is.
The biggest fear we have is you'll have one large circle around all 4 quadrants.
Just get it done, get it done. So, and on the community investment, this will cost X, and this will cost X. Well, I want to tell you, you feel free to do this work right now, or you can send it to us. I've got cards up front if you would like. We really have appreciated you spending your time here. You are the largest group to have arrived so far. We've had 2. And we really hope that you have a great experience coming through. Hope you follow the strategic planning on the website, and we'll work on having the items on the calendar for you. Thank you.
If you want to find it on the website, go to the left side, scroll down, it'll say strategic planning, and it opens up.
Thank you.